Welcome. I'm Glenn Anderson with the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation. This TV series explores a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, alternative economics, the environment, and nonviolent social change. This month's program will address some interrelated topics. We'll explore the Earth Charter, which stakes out a bold, wise, and comprehensive vision for the planet that we all share. The Earth Charter is both a document and a foundation for a multi-issue movement that connects the environment, human rights, and other positive values. The program also will explore the interconnections between religious faith and concern for caring for the environment. And so both of these major themes will carry on throughout the program, and we'll weave these in through each other. We have three guests who can help us with all of this. It's a pretty ambitious challenge, but we have three great folks, Barhara Gibson, Tom Connor, and Sister Mimi Maloney. Welcome, good to have you all here. I wonder if you could each say something about what you're bringing to the conversation here today.
Well, I think mainly what I bring is, first of all, an artistic, poetic approach to social issues, including the saving of the environment or the trying to heal the environment, and also my own personal faith, which is kind of hard to describe because I'm really an interfaith person, cultural Christian, but I've taken on an earth-centered practice and sometimes a Buddhist practice, as well as honoring the Christian and Jewish traditions.
Great, thanks, Barhara. Tom?
Yes, I bring a background of green building, sustainable agriculture, and because I'm a member of the local Jewish group here, I would like to bring that out more fully if I can, and my involvement in the community as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tom. Mimi?
Excuse me. I come from the Catholic tradition, and being out in nature and being in the created world has always been a religious experience for me. So the care of creation in this created world is a religious issue for me. And so I've been involved in that for several years. And also the Earth Charter, we've had several sessions on the Earth Charter in our parish.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be weaving these things together during the hour, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We want to take up the Earth Charter first. It shows us the value of good water as part of the environment and part of our well-being as well. Right. So, could you tell us something about what the Earth Charter is, Mimi?
Well, the Earth Charter is actually a document on sustainability. It's a declaration of the fundamental principles that are going to be needed to build a just, peaceful, and global society in the 21st century.
Now, Tom, when we were preparing for the program, you mentioned that sustainability has three legs, and I wonder if you can address those.
Those three legs, like a tripod, it's the environment, it's the economy, and equity, social equity. They're interdependent. While they're independent, they're also interdependent to maintain holistic whole of sustainability.
Okay, so it's the environment, economics, and social equity. So it takes all three.
Yes.
I read through, I'd heard of the Earth Charter, and I had read it a few years ago when it was fresh, and then I've read it again several times in preparing for the show, and I'm just really impressed by how wise it is, and how ambitious, and how well it pulls things together. And I would encourage people to take a look at the website for this. It's www.earthcharter.org. I wonder, could you tell us some more about how it came about?
Well, the Earth Charter, the United Nations Commission on Sustainable Development, issued a call for a charter on sustainability back in 1987. And so that was the beginning of the work on what became known as the Earth Charter. So it was to be a charter on sustainable development. And then in the at the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro in 1992, a group of people were commissioned to begin the writing of the Earth Charter. So from about 1987 to 1997 or 98, there was a 10-year process of talking to people from all over the world, from all religious traditions, all cultural traditions, talking with people that were experts and both experts and just common folk, so that it's a very broad representation. And what they were trying to find are the common values that all people share that will help lead to a peaceful, just, and sustainable development, and a peaceful, just, and sustainable world in the 21st century.
And it has to work for everybody, as
well as
the three components that Tom mentioned. It has to work globally for
all people. So it sets out those guidelines, those principles that are going to be required, and just in along with Tom's point on the three, pegs of sustainable development, that people, planet, and profits, those considerations all have to be part of any equation for sustainable development.
And so often we emphasize profits and ignore the
That's correct.
The people,
the
and
other,
planet.
and the planet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be that we already know why that makes sense from in terms of spiritual values or religious or faith commitment, but it wouldn't hurt to just sort of connect that. We'll get into the Earth Charter in more depth, and we'll get into our own religious and spiritual motivations for working for the environment later. But at this early stage of the program, could we just kind of see how this connects?
Well, it's a big topic, and the Earth Charter covers a lot of territory, and it's almost hard to grasp the enormity of the problem and also the complexity of the issues. But I guess what really impresses me most about it is the way that concern for human beings and concern for the planet, concern for justice, concern for planetary health, all these are put into balance in the Earth Charter. No one is emphasized over another. And also gender justice is offered up as an important principle for the health of the entire Earth. And this means to me that everything is interconnected. The Earth is a community. The Earth is almost an organism. And every part of it affects every other part of it. So you really can't have peace without justice. We've said that many times before. And also we can't have either of those without a healthy planet and a sustainable way of living. And I think that the Earth Charter says a lot about all of those, the different parts of it.
It also strikes me, if we look at what's been happening with our world, how we emphasize production, consumption, domination of nature, and all this kind of stuff, and we've caused these problems of militarism and injustice and so forth, that says something about our values, about our spirituality. And the Earth Charter lifts up these positive alternatives and says, here's what we need to do. And it seems, as I read it, it brings back to, yeah, let's get clear about what we really value and then practice that in our public policy, in our foreign policy, in our economic policy, and so forth.
I think the danger almost with a document like the Earth Charter is that it's very easy to agree with every single one of those principles, I would say. I really can't imagine who would say, well, no, I don't believe in that. You can't deny the truth of these. So the question is then what to do about it, how to make it real.
Yeah.
Something that isn't just written on paper, but that's real.
And we'll come back to the Earth Charter in some more detail. I want to kind of stake out some territory about what our own religious or spiritual approaches may be. We'll take some time for each of the guests here, and then we'll put the pieces back together. Tom, can you tell us something about your own motivations for working to take care of the environment?
To take care of the environment can also be expressed in a regard called tikkun olam, to repair the world, from a Jewish background, that expression. There's other expressions that, from my background, that I'd like to bring out more, such as Bal Tashit, to help minimize wanton waste, to care for the earth. Then there's other principles of caring for the body, which is your temple, caring for animals. That's the reason why there's a way of processing food, kosher, so you don't cause. There's respect, and respect can also be blessing the food itself before you bring it into your own temple.
There's a Jewish holiday that respects trees. I forget the name of it.
Tu B'Shvat.
Yeah.
It's the New Year of the trees, but it also has brought up the concept of honoring all of nature. It's not just trees, but it shows the paramount element that trees have to maintain a cover for animals, and also a means of promoting water to flow, to protect the springs that are on the land and maintain habitat along the stream corridor.
I think of the creation story where it says, God saw all this created stuff and said that it was good. I mean, there's a positive value right from the first chapter of Genesis that affirms that the natural world is something good.
It's good, it's interconnected, it each maintains other elements we need. For example, in ourselves, we think of food, but also we need a certain amount of microflora within us to maintain our health. And so we rely on...
Microflora would be, without the scientific name,
it could be bacteria, for example, that are beneficial, that assist us in digestion.
Yeah.
So we pay homage to all cells of any complexity.
Mimi, you come out of another well-known tradition. And can you tell us something about your own?
Well, for me, I've always been attracted to the mystical tradition in our Catholic Christian tradition. And many of our mystics were very creation-centered. And so for me and for them, the earth is revelatory, that we come to understand that mystery that is at the heart of everything, that what we in our Catholic tradition call God, but I sort of think of it as the ground of all being, that mystery that permeates the world. And so we live in a sacred universe, and we come to learn, well, let me just say that Thomas Aquinas, who was one of the greatest theologians that the Catholic Church recognizes, said this in his treatise on creation, that sacred revelation comes in 2 volumes. The first is the book of creation, and the second is the book of Scripture. The book of creation is the book that all of us can read. It's the book of God's works, and that's always appealed to me. It's the beauty, our experience of that mystery of the other, of what is beyond, comes from this beautiful world. That's what. That's where poetry and music and art, I think, are, you know, stimulated, and it flows from the beauty that surrounds us.
I know you brought a couple of quotations with you. Do you have anything that's on that theme, or you want to hold it for later?
Let's see. Well, in this actually is a Jewish prayer, but the Jewish Christian scriptures, especially the Psalms, are so full of you know, talking about the beauty of the earth and how it reveals God. This is from Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiworks. And this is another, this is from the Jewish Gates of Prayer that, Tom, you might be familiar with. How wonderful, O Lord, are the works of your hands. The heavens declare your glory. The arch of sky displays your handiwork. The heavens declare the glory of God. In your love, you have given us the power to behold the beauty of your world, robed in all its splendor. The sun and the stars, the valley and the hill, the rivers and lakes, all disclose your presence. Okay. The earth reveals God's eternal presence.
Now that's a level of appreciation that's so much different from what we've had in Western society for some centuries, that says, well, there's this big split between people versus nature, or you know, spiritual things versus worldly things. There's that dualism that splits us apart, and what you've been saying brings it back together.
It's all one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all one.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara.
Well, I've written my own versions of some of the Book of Psalms, and so I'd like to read one of them. And one of the things I did in my version was to make earth or creation a central mystery, a central object of veneration, object of devotion, rather than God per se, because that word is problematic for a lot of people, I think. So this is my version of Psalm 8. And this shows, I think, also how earth and how the universe actually challenges us in certain ways. So this is this one. O universe, how glorious you are. We see a bright glimpse of you in the night sky. We look at the moon and stars, how ancient and mysterious they seem. How can the universe care for us? We are tiny in the vastness of time and space, and yet on earth we are too powerful. We dominate and exploit the land, the waters, and the air. We breed and slaughter cattle. We poison the California condor and block the sparkling salmon runs. We have destroyed the passenger pigeon. O universe, how can you care for us when we have not cared for you?
So tell us some more. Thank you. That's great. Tell us some more about your approach to dealing with the environment based on what's in your own heart and your own values.
Part of it is resonant with what Mimi has said about my feelings for nature. And so a lot of times when I'm in nature, especially when I'm by myself there, I have almost mystical experiences, I guess that you could call them that. And then also I take that material then and make it part of the work, the poetry writing work that I do. But I think it's the beauty of nature and also the mystery of it that are so constantly rich. There's never an end to it. You can never come to an end of the beauty and the mystery of nature and the sacredness of it.
So let's see if we can pull some pieces together and see, are there some similarities? You've mentioned some similarities there. Are there some other similarities or differences or anything that we want to take off on? And
well, diversity is part of the interconnectedness. The more diverse, the more you honor all the patterns in nature, then that diversity only amplifies the oneness.
And so like an ecosystem that has a lot of different plants and animals, different kinds of plants and animals, there's more going on than monoculture where it's a tree farm of just Douglas firs or a field of just corn or something.
Correct. Correct. It can even, it'll attract from areas that have been more impoverished to help enrich. So that's the reason why it's good to help nurture as best as you can that diversity, because it not only attracts, but it has an influence of going beyond its borders.
And so are you talking also about the diversity of belief, diversity of spiritual insight or practice? I mean, is it?
I think you need a diversity of faith as well, because you can't, there's so many names for God and some are not even spoken.
Yeah.
So there's some elements where sound will come in as a means of communicating. Other ways are just motion, the quietness, the solitude. It's so hard to find that solitude, that silence, but also that silence is loud in itself.
Sometimes ritual can express our mystical feelings and also in a community, so that we all attend a religious group of some kind, but even in smaller ways, like dancing around the maypole. Well, actually that is an ancient religious or earth-centered practice. Or Halloween has elements of earth worship to it. So in my congregation, we do celebrate some of those earth-centered holidays as well, because they are the indigenous people from long ago or from now, their integration into the world of nature, their partnership with it in such a more direct way than we have.
So there's some grounding both metaphorically and actually physically, grounded on the earth.
And in community too, celebrating the earth in community, I think is, I said I like to be alone in nature, but I also like the community rituals that celebrate the earth.
One of the things, just as you're talking about the interconnectedness and the diversity in the natural world, and how, again, I think that is so, what we would say, revelatory. It reveals something about how that mystery, what I would call God, or that values diversity. And so I think different religious traditions, the insights from science, different cultures, the diversity of the world's people can all bring a little bit to the whole picture. So we all have a little window on that reality, on that ultimate reality. So, and I think Earth teaches us that, because the more diverse an ecosystem, the healthier that ecosystem is.
Let's move on to the Earth Charter again, and let's spend just a couple minutes on each of the 4 principles. And I'll read the 4 principles, and then we'll just take each one at a time and kind of share what we can about it. The first one is respect Earth and life in all its diversity, and we've been talking about that some. And then the Earth Charter fleshes that out with some detail and some sub-detail. The second one is care for the community of life with understanding, compassion, and love, and that also is fleshed out in the actual document. Third one is build democratic societies that are just, participatory, sustainable, and peaceful. And the fourth one is secure the Earth's bounty and beauty for present and future generations. So this is it's a pretty big scale of things. And as I read through the specifics under each of those 4 principles, some of those are quite overlapping across, so you can see it's that web. So let's talk a bit, maybe we have talked some about respect Earth and life in all its diversity. Are there other things that we need to say about that?
One thought that comes up in my mind is Goethe, who's said the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So as you're talking about diversity in all the parts, that idea that the parts only speak to a greater oneness. So I want to bring that out as well. So to respect Earth and life and all of its diversity is because in order to understand this Earth firma terra, we need to go cherish the diversity, and then by cherishing it, to understand the parts, we go beyond it to a greater understanding.
I'd like to remind us that life includes death as well. And so we need to respect and honor death because it's part of the way that life enriches itself, and the earth enriches itself. And it's something that we don't really like to talk about that much, perhaps, or to honor, but we must.
It's a process.
Yeah.
You know, in agriculture, if you wanted to say death is exemplified by decay, and then decay and composting, and that allows life afterwards to come on and be enriched by what has come before.
Well, they're just so interconnected because I'm looking at a page that also has some more detail, and it's just this great.
Can I just remind us of the salmon dying in the streams, which you can watch in this part of the country, and then other animals eat those dead carcasses, bears and eagles and I don't know what else, probably raccoons. And then their bodies eventually, and their wastes and their bodies decay and become part of the forest floor, and you know, fertilize the plants in the forest, which then they eat, and it's just a wonderful cycle.
Well, and the salmon fry have to eat really little things as they move downstream, and there are all these other microorganisms that have been working over the salmon carcasses. Are, you know, little things are about the right size for fry to eat.
Okay. Yeah.
It just in that whole, I've come to appreciate that as I've gotten older, that this is an interconnected system where really waste equals food, doesn't it? As things break down, they become food for other species, and so it's a self-perpetuating system, and it's...
I want to move on to Chapter 2, or Principle 2 of the Earth Charter. Principle 1 had said that we need to have, Principle 1 closed by saying if we want to implement this, we need to have ecological integrity, and it fleshes out some things that are part of ecological integrity, and the things we need to accomplish for the second principle are protect and restore the integrity of Earth's ecological systems with special concern for biological diversity and the natural processes that sustain life. We've just been talking about that some. Prevent harm as the best method of environmental protection. And when knowledge is limited, apply a precautionary approach. And that's this thing that says, if we don't know what genetically modified organisms might do, let's not mess around with that and put things into our system until we know that that's safe. Then it has adopt patterns of production, consumption, and reproduction that safeguard Earth's regenerative capacities, human rights, and community well-being. So they're linking all those. And advance the study of ecological sustainability and promote the open exchange and wide application of the knowledge acquired.
Yeah.
So that's a rich. Are there comments on that range of ecological integrity?
Yes. One, it helps to understand that integrity means wholeness.
Yeah, one, like an integer is a whole number.
Right, that's correct. And the other element is, because of the complexity of sustainability, it's good to to maintain a level of humility. You can't know it all. And when I went to agricultural school, they would say the species is the authority. So you look to the plant, you look to the water, they're the authority, and if they're responding in a harmful way or where pollution might be impairing its quality, then that's telling you something. You need to listen.
I love that. That's beautiful. Listen to the earth, listen to the creatures and the processes of the earth.
Right.
And learn.
Read, it's like the book of scripture.
Read.
We can learn something. And I think, you know, just on that, were you going to say something?
No, I was just, this reinforces what you had said earlier about the two books.
Yes, the two books,
exactly.
how it's not only reveals that mystery, but it tells us something about life and how our systems and structures are to be set. the principle, adopt patterns of production, consumption, and reproduction that safeguard Earth's regenerative capacities, human rights, and community well-being. There's a real movement now of developing, doing biomimicry, trying to develop systems that mimic life systems. For example, we just talked about waste. One of our problems is what to do with our waste, because we have so much waste that cannot be brought back into the community of life, that it's so toxic and such. But to imitate life where waste equals food, so everything we do can be recycled and reused, and if it can't be, that it can go back into the community of life and not be so toxic. So I think that there's a lot that we can learn, and more people are doing that, studying those things and trying to develop human systems that mimic the Earth and the ecological systems that we have.
So that's that profound listening that Tom was encouraging, that listen because the species knows best.
Yeah.
That's the authority.
Right. There's also an expression that's coming around now in green building. It's called cradle to cradle, not cradle to grave, cradle to cradle. The idea that you take something from its original source, like from the earth, you don't want it to just go into the landfill. How to make that a cradle for another life. And that's part of sustainability. You don't subtract from future generations. The Iroquois would say, try to look at the 7th generation, what your impacts have now.
There's a third principle in the Earth Charter that also flows from these, and it requires social justice, and that's principle 3, and that also has 4 parts, and I'll just enumerate those. The social justice principle includes eradicating poverty as an ethical, social, and environmental imperative, ensuring that economic activities and institutions at all levels promote human development in an equitable and sustainable manner, affirm gender equality and equity as prerequisites to sustainable development, and ensure universal access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. And the 4th one is uphold the right of all without discrimination to a natural and social environment supportive of human dignity, bodily health, and spiritual well-being, with special attention to the rights of indigenous peoples and minorities. So what do you say about that?
Eradicate poverty as an ethical, social, and environmental imperative. I think to do that, it means not so much eradicate poverty, but bring some people up, and then some of the rest of us who are so privileged and so wealthy in comparison to most people around the world will live more simple lives, so that we'll all be living similar levels of prosperity and poverty. And it means that a lot of us perhaps need to, or it's just going to happen. It's not so much that we're going to voluntarily do this, but as you know, a tradition of voluntary poverty.
Yes.
Because monastics take a vow usually of voluntary poverty, and it's seen as a spiritual practice.
It's seen as a spiritual practice, and I think that ties in with a statement in the Earth Charter, in the preamble to the Earth Charter, where it says something to the effect of human development consists primarily in being more, not having more. And I think that that's been part of kind of the illusion that we have been running after, is having a lot is what development is all about. But I think that it's more of that being satisfied with what we have, being able to be satisfied with less and with what we have, and enjoying that. Yes.
Well, and there's that famous bumper sticker that says, "Live simply that others may simply
Yes,
live."
exactly.
So there's that equity that you're referred to, Barbara.
Right. I like Gandhi's statement. There's enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed.
that's another.
Gandhi also said, somebody asked him what his advice was for people to be happy, and he said, renounce and enjoy. They asked if you could break it down into just like 3 words of advice. Renounce and enjoy.
Excellent.
Recapturing that ability to enjoy life and enjoy what we have.
Yeah, with the simplicity.
The simplicity of that. You know, I'd just like to make a point on the ensure that economic activities and institutions at all levels promote human development in an equitable and sustainable manner. This ties in with the some of the previous principles, but I think the idea that the human economy can thrive on an earth economy that is collapsing is a fallacy. And I think in some ways we have operated in our world that we can have a thriving human economy kind of apart from what is happening in the earth. But if the waters are polluted, if the fisheries are collapsing, if the forests are dying, I mean, we depend on that, the earth capital and the earth systems. And so we will only flourish, the human community will only flourish if the earth community flourishes. And it's again, not an either or.
Right, and again, it's that, it goes back to the basic reality that human beings are part of the natural world.
That's right.
We can't deny it, we can't be in denial of that. We've got to live recognizing
that we're part of this community, this larger community.
As some people are saying, deal with reality or reality will deal with you. You know?
And I think
which
we're
it
seeing
is doing.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is.
we're starting to see that in ways really never before.
Yeah.
Right, and some of it is very quiet. It's not resounding.
Yeah.
And we can't see all the disconnects which are happening.
I want to move through. We got the 4th principle, and then we've got a lot more things to talk about. And the 4th principle is respect and care for the community of life. With principle 1 also requires that we accomplish principle 4, which is democracy, nonviolence, and peace. And it puts those together. Principle 4's 4 parts are strengthen democratic institutions at all levels and provide transparency and accountability in governance, inclusive participation in decision-making, and access to justice. Also, integrate into formal education and lifelong learning the knowledge, values, and skills needed for a sustainable way of life. Also, treat all living beings with respect and consideration. And finally, promote a culture of tolerance, nonviolence, and peace. So, lots more in there. Again, it's the, you know, if we think of the ecosystem, the natural world, but also all the different kinds of people, as we started talking earlier about the different faith traditions and the need for appreciation and actually the value of having different traditions.
You know, on the 15th principle there, the treat all beings with respect and consideration, I think that is such a key thing too, because I think, again, in our Western culture, that many times other creatures or other beings only have value in terms of how useful they are to us. And that is a fallacy for me. Beings have value in themselves, that it's not a utilitarian value that they have, but they're all part of the community and have a unique role to play and to be respected for that.
Yeah.
Good point.
It seems like there's a whole lot of value in here, and as we were preparing for the show, we were talking about how there are places for different kinds of people. The peace activists have a role in this, and the social justice activists, and labor has things to do, and farmers have things to do, and builders, and every different profession or interest area has some part of this, and how much fun it would be to get people together and figure out, you know, here's my part, how can my part connect with your part, and put this together. It just seems like a rich
maybe
potential.
that can happen in faith communities where people aren't sorted out by what they do for a living, particularly.
Right.
They're sorted out by, they're not sorted out, they come together because of a particular faith. And there's diversity, hopefully, in that faith community, and so people can share those kinds of experiences.
And there'd be an age range so that people of different generations can learn from each other and so forth.
Kind of everybody bring their own gift or their particular skill to the building of the community.
Yeah. Do you want to share another psalm with us? Is you're good at this point, and then want to connect on and look at some specifics that people can actually do. That Tom has been working with some things at the temple, and there are other cool things happening in the community.
So this is my version of Psalm 24. The earth is one, and all that is in it. The world and those who live in it are one. For the earth rests on the great oceans, and the water of life flows in every river and stream. Who shall ascend the holy hills, and who shall stand in the sacred forest? All who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not worship the marketplace or the bank, who do not give their souls to profit and war, and who refuse to believe the social lies. All will receive the blessings of earth as they seek the truth with every breath. Such is the company of those who honor the earth, who honor the sacred face of creation.
And the name of your book that you did is?
It's called Psalms for Troubled Times. Can I hold it up?
Yes, yeah. Flash that.
And it's at Orca Books, and also at the Priory Bookstore, and at Fireside Books.
Okay.
I can sure vouch for it. It brings such a different perspective and a current perspective to the Psalms, which I've always loved the Psalms, and it's they're just beautiful.
I've tried to be true to the spirit of the Psalms, but making them contemporary, and also the idea of God, in my view, is there are many names for the face of God, and so I give them many names.
I think that's really interesting. Tom, you're doing some specific things with the Temple Beth Hatfiloh.
Yeah, we are at the temple. There's some. We have a building committee. We have a design committee. We have a building and grounds committee, and they're trying to work together to prepare for a new edition, which we are going to be having. I believe the ground is going to be broken this month of December. And we are going to try to implement something called Eco-Kashrut, for example, with the ritual committee, so that it brings not only respect for food, but how people honor food in a large community setting. How do we work with the plates so we don't minimize waste and maximize wanton destruction of resources? For example, such as biodegradable plates, but even that might not be the final resolution of how we're going to look at Eco-Kashrut. The elements of green building we're going to be looking into and employing, such as the landscape will be all native plants. We're going to be looking at what's something called rain harvesting, so that we can capture some of the rain and use that during the droughty periods to help irrigate these native plants that do need time to acclimate. It could be as well using low volatile organic compounds, as they're called, in our paints and finishes. And if we can, forest certified wood building material where we can do that, so we can implement more of the various elements of green building.
It was interesting when you said at the beginning of this that this is being done partly with the committee that works on ritual. So this is not just set aside for the building committee to do or for an environmental committee, but it's a part of the religious experience of the congregation.
How do we get the community involved, such as how do we care for the life of the community, and how that can be accentuated and promoted is have the community express itself as it's developing our new expansion of our synagogue. And hopefully the idea of leading by example.
Can you tell us something about the thing that ends up being leadership in energy and environmental design?
Correct.
Pretty briefly, because we're running a little bit late.
That there's different facets of what's called green building. There's something called Built Green, which is normally used for homes. LEED has several platforms where we're trying to bring in some elements of LEED in new construction, such as our addition. There's also LEED for our homes, for new developments, LEED for commercial interiors. So the idea is that how to make buildings which are so consumptive of our water, of our land, of our building materials and energy, how to minimize its environmental footprint.
And so there are different standards, there are levels of...
There's different
threshold.
levels, like even the city hall, they're looking at making that LEED silver, which is right in line with the governor's requirement that all state buildings greater than 5,000 square feet be of LEED silver caliber.
Now here in Thurston County, we have this wonderful organization, Interfaith Works, that brings together people from this very wide diversity of faith backgrounds. Some communities have a council of churches, but that's limited to Christian, and this Interfaith Works is really very broadly interfaith. And they have the Earth Stewardship Committee that you're a part of. Would somebody tell us about the Earth Stewardship Committee?
Well, I don't know
we should also give the phone number and the website.
Okay.
Interfaith Works is so good. They really deserve people to connect, because they really help people connect in a lot of ways. It's 357-7224, and the website is www.interfaith, and there's a hyphen works.org. So interfaith-works.org. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know a lot about the Interfaith Works Stewardship Committee, except that they sponsor various events. One that I remember vividly was they had a presentation on different forms of energy for transportation, and someone came to talk about biodiesel, and someone else talked about hybrid cars, and it was very detailed. I mean, these people knew exactly what they were doing and used those methods of transportation, so that was good. And then also that committee sponsored the showing of An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore's wonderful film, and we held it at Gloria Dei Church. It has this wonderful television screen.
And a huge room.
And a huge room, and it was standing room only. It was
Yeah.
amazing how many people came. It was very, very important to have that event, I think, and to see the great response to it.
And then you meet monthly? Is that right?
We do meet monthly. It's, I think it was formed, Tom, was it about a year ago, I think
About,
that it
yes.
was? Yes. Leslie Romer, I believe, from the Unitarian Universalist Church, got the idea and made the presentation to Interfaith Works. And she got the idea going for an Earth Stewardship Committee. And that was approved. So what the idea is to try to get a representative from all of the faith communities that are part of Interfaith Works. We don't have that many. We just have a few congregations that are represented. But one of the other activities that Interfaith Works sponsored last year was an Interfaith Earth Charter discussion group. And that was very well attended. So, and then we've done some other activities, Tom.
For example, we showed something called solar dimming. There's global warming, but very few people have heard solar dimming, so we showed that. It was from a PBS special, and how the particles coming from emissions in our industrial marketplace is dimming the earth.
So if somebody watching the program is not is a member of a faith community, some congregation or a faith community here, and they don't have a contact point for the Earth Stewardship Community, they should hustle around there and come up with one and connect with Interfaith Works at 357-7224, or interfaith-works.org.
And I believe, I don't know if I answered your question, Glenn, we do meet once a month, and we meet at the temple.
It's one
and
Wednesday.
Generally, the meeting goes from 12 till 1
Yeah.
or 1:30.
Yeah, good.
So.
I want to just run through a list of, there are a lot of other interfaith, faith-based and in some cases interfaith efforts. The Unitarians have an extensive process of becoming a green congregation. There's a group based in Seattle that's called Earth Ministry, and their website is www.earthministry.org, and they put out a weekly email thing, and they do events, and they really get people connected to do the kind of thing that we're talking about here.
And they have a lot of wonderful resources, too,
that
you can get from Earth Ministry.
Yeah. There are some evangelical Christians that want to work on these issues, and Evangelicals for Social Action lifts up some of those activities. In Northern California, one of the groups protecting old-growth forests from logging is the Redwood Rabbis, and so that's cool. And in 2001, there were 7 Catholic bishops from the Northwest who issued a pastoral letter about the Columbia River that was really good and sensitive about Indian issues and salmon issues and so forth. The Washington Association of Churches has an environmental justice program. The National Council of Churches has an eco-justice working group. I mean, it just goes on, and there's a national religious partnership for the environment, and that's a network that links up Muslims, Jews, and Christians all together into the National Religious Partnership on the Environment. So there's a lot happening, and much of it is not well known, but I would encourage people to dig around and contact us and hustle some more. We're running short on time, have a little bit left, but we do want to mention some of these websites that are available. The Earth Charter website has a lot of good information. It's www.earthcharter.org. And we mentioned www.earthministry.org. You had a book that you wanted to mention as a resource.
Well, this is a book that was very inspiring to me as I began to learn about not only the story of the Earth, but the story of the entire universe. And this is from a faith-based point of view, but also from a very skillful science point of view. And I know Mimi uses this book a lot too. It's called The Universe Story: From the Primordial Flaring Forth to the Ecozoic Era. So I would recommend that.
And then this Plan B 2.0 has been getting just extensive coverage and just a lot of praise. Lester Brown has been writing books for World Watch Institute for years about what's going on with the world, different aspects, facts and figures and everything else, so people can watch the trends. And this book is new. It came out, and it's and everybody says how scary it is, but if you hang in there till the very end, then there are some positive and hopeful things. But that's a great resource that's being really well respected. There are things that viewers can do, and we've sort of alluded to some, and I wonder if we could summarize a few of these. Oh, we're just about out of time. I think we are just about out of time. Maybe we could just pick up a closing thought from each of us, and then, we do have a few minutes. Okay, let's pick up a couple things that viewers could do, and then we'll come back for some closing thoughts.
I just wanted to, again, recommend a couple of imaginative works. One is a novel called Ecotopia by Ernest Kallenbach. I think it was published in the 60s or 70s, perhaps, but it's a beautiful description of people who lived a sustainable lifestyle. It takes place in the future. And the other one that's similar to that in a way is a novel by Ursula K. Le Guin called Always Coming Home, which describes, again, a group of people who live after some terrible disaster has happened. And they have the most beautiful, wonderful lifestyle, not without conflict, not without violence even, but beautiful and harmonious with the earth.
Other things to do?
Read those books.
It's always good to get informed. If I'm more of also one who not only likes to read, but also to plant my feet on the ground. And there's a volunteer for the parks, for example, within the community. The city just acquired West Bay Parklands. They're looking at making this a model of urban restoration, because we do have the Chinook salmon going through Butt Inlet. Yeah. So you can get involved with the parks. We talked about Interfaith Works. Also, when the city has town hall meetings, bring up your points. A little bit of social activism, because they're representatives. You try to work with them, get involved with your local neighborhood association, because many times this idea of locally involvement is very direct. Yeah.
Just to follow up with what Tom was saying, there's an opportunity for local activism. I got an email about the Tumwater City Council is going to consider the adoption of Mayor Nichols' the Mayor's Climate Protection Initiative.
Oh, this started from the mayor of Seattle.
He started it's sweeping the country. Mayor Nichols started out with like 5 or 7 mayors. When our federal government refused to sign the Kyoto Protocol, Mayor Nichols took on global warming, yes. Mayor Nichols took the initiative and decided to try to get cities and municipalities to commit to the Kyoto Protocol. So that's one thing. That's on Tuesday.
Lots of things to do. Let's get a real brief closing thing from each person.
I think it's so heartening to do what we've been doing tonight, and that is to talk with people who are kind of on the same page. Because it's easy to fall into despair about how bad things are. And it's always hopeful to share with other people and get new ideas and get good heart feelings too.
I agree. It's empowering. And to commiserate, and also to as I said, get involved, because that way it opens your mind to things you hadn't even considered before.
Okay. Thanks.
And for me, I agree with both of you. And the Earth Charter, I think, is such a hopeful document because it brings together all people from all traditions to work toward a more hopeful future. Yeah. So that's very exciting and empowering for me.
Yeah, I'd love to see a group of people come together locally and just really organize to find lots of ways to get people connected and to move toward implementation, and to have people bring from whatever is in their hearts to contribute to this. So I want to thank Barhara Gibson and Tom Connor and Mimi Maloney. I want to thank all the viewers who've been watching. There is a lot of information out there, and more all the time. For information, we should also mention the one that you told me about right before the program, www.coejl.org, and that's
Coalition on the Environment and Jewish Life.
Yeah, so there's another one that I just learned about now. So thank you so much. We want to thank all the people for watching. The world needs everybody's participation. Thank you for whatever you can do.